Almost nobody plans to have a C-section, yet nearly 1 in 3 births ends that way. The surprising part? For many parents, it wasn't one emergency that led to surgery. It was a chain of small decisions, each one making the next more likely. By the time someone says, "We need a C-section," that chain may have started hours or even weeks earlier. In the next few minutes, we'll break down the biggest mistakes and missed conversations that can increase the chances of an unplanned C-section, what the evidence actually says, and when a C-section is truly the safest option. Let's start with where that chain often begins. Mistake 1. Inducing labor before your body is ready. The first link in the chain often starts before labor even begins. Your doctor says, "We can schedule an induction." It sounds simple, maybe even convenient. But here's the question almost nobody asks. Is your body actually ready? Think of your cervix like a locked door. Contractions are the force trying to push that door open. But if the door is still locked, pushing harder doesn't help. It just creates more pressure. That's why inducing labor before the cervix is ready can sometimes lead to long, exhausting labors that don't progress as expected. When labor stalls, the chances of additional interventions, including a C-section, can increase. Research has found that cervical readiness is one of the strongest predictors of whether an induction is likely to end in a vaginal birth. That doesn't mean induction is bad. In many situations, like high blood pressure, diabetes, or concerns about the baby's health, it can be the safest, life-saving choice. The mistake isn't saying yes to induction. It's saying yes without understanding why it's being recommended, or whether your body is ready for it. Because one decision here can become the first domino in a much longer chain. And that chain often speeds up because of a mistake many first-time parents make the moment contractions begin. Mistake 2. Going to the hospital too early. For many first-time parents, labor starts with excitement. Then one question: should we leave for the hospital? It feels safer to go as soon as contractions begin. But if you're having a healthy, low-risk pregnancy, getting there too early can accidentally start a countdown you never wanted. Here's why. At home, your labor follows your body's timeline. At the hospital, it often follows a medical timeline. Once you're admitted, your progress is monitored closely. If your cervix isn't opening as expected, more interventions may be suggested to help move labor along. And each new intervention can make another one more likely. Studies have found that low-risk women who spend more of early labor at home often have lower rates of medical intervention, including C-sections. That doesn't mean you should stay home no matter what. If your water breaks, you're bleeding, your baby isn't moving normally, or your provider has told you to come in, go. Those situations are different. The mistake isn't going to the hospital. It's assuming that earlier is always better. Sometimes, the safest place during early labor is simply where your body is most relaxed. But once you're admitted, there's one thing that often turns a normal labor into a domino effect of interventions. Mistake 3. Not understanding the intervention cascade. Here's what many parents are never told. During labor, one intervention can make another more likely. Doctors call this the cascade of interventions. Imagine a row of dominoes. The first one falls, and suddenly they're all moving. For example, labor is induced. The contractions become stronger and closer together than expected. The pain becomes overwhelming, so an epidural is requested. Sometimes labor slows afterward. To keep things moving, Pitocin may be increased. Stronger contractions can put more stress on the baby, leading to changes in the heart rate that need careful evaluation. At that point, your medical team may recommend a C-section because they believe it's the safest option. Now, here's the important part. None of these steps are mistakes on their own. Every one of them can be the right decision depending on what's happening in that moment. The mistake is not knowing that each decision can change what comes next. That's why whenever there's time, it's worth asking 3 simple questions. Why is this being recommended? What are the alternatives? And what happens if we wait a little longer? Those questions don't challenge your doctor. They help you understand your options, because the best decisions in labor are informed decisions. not rushed ones. But even when labor is progressing normally, one surprisingly common hospital routine can make birth physically harder than it needs to be. Mistake 4, staying flat on your back. Here's something that surprises a lot of people. The position you're in during pushing can actually change how much space your baby has to move through. Think of it like trying to roll a ball through a tunnel. If the tunnel gets even a little wider, the ball has a much easier path. Your pelvis works in a similar way. When you're flat on your back, the weight of your body can limit how freely parts of your pelvis move. Changing to positions like side-lying, hands and knees, or squatting with support may create more room and help some babies rotate more easily during labor. Research suggests that upright or mobile positions during labor can reduce the need for some assisted deliveries and may improve comfort for many women. Of course, there are times when lying on your back is necessary, especially if your medical team needs continuous access during certain situations. But if everything is progressing normally, don't assume there's only one position you can give birth in. Ask, move, change positions if it's safe. Sometimes a small adjustment can make a big difference. And finally, there's one conversation that has led thousands of parents toward an unnecessary C-section before labor even begins. Mistake 5, treating a big baby estimate like a fact. A few weeks before your due date, your provider looks at the ultrasound and says, "Your baby is measuring big." For many parents, those 4 words change everything. Suddenly they're talking about induction or even a planned C-section. But here's what many people don't realize. An ultrasound near the end of pregnancy doesn't measure your baby's weight. It estimates it. And those estimates can be off by more than a pound in either direction. That means a baby predicted to weigh 9 pounds could actually weigh much less or more. That's why many experts recommend looking at the whole clinical picture, not just one estimated number. If your provider is concerned about your baby's size, ask, how confident is this estimate? What other factors are influencing your recommendation? What are the benefits and risks of waiting? Sometimes a large baby really does make a planned C-section the safest choice. But other times, the estimate alone isn't enough to predict how labor will go. The goal isn't to ignore the number. It's to understand how much uncertainty comes with it. So if these are the biggest mistakes, what actually gives you the best chance of avoiding an unnecessary C-section? The payoff. Here's the most important thing to remember. A C-section is not a failure, and it's not something to fear. Every single day, C-sections save the lives of mothers and babies. The goal was never to avoid surgery at all costs. The goal is to make sure that if you need one, it's because your medical team believes it's the safest option, not because you never knew you had questions you could ask. Most of the decisions we talked about today aren't about saying no to medical care. They're about understanding why it's being recommended, what the alternatives are, and making informed decisions together with your healthcare team. Because when you understand the process, you don't just feel more prepared, you feel more confident. And confidence may be one of the most valuable things you bring into the delivery room. If this video helped you understand the path that can lead to a C-section, share it with someone who's expecting, because the best time to learn this is before labor begins. And if you want more evidence-based pregnancy guides explained simply, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.